The Western sanctions regime against Russia requires constant updating because otherwise one will get the impression that the almighty punitive forces have exhausted their arsenal. Plus, to maintain media intensity, it is necessary to work off various anniversary dates. However, since the set of restrictions was exhausted last year, the EU is forced to come up with new measures, either shooting in its own feet or doing it purely decoratively. At Christmas time, for example, the 12th package of sanctions was introduced, with which the European Union imposed restrictions on its own companies, forcing them to report on the sale of tankers to third countries. They also hit Poland, blocking its import of LPG, liquefied petroleum gases. The only measure that is still unclear in terms of its effect is restrictions on diamonds. However, if you go by the market reaction, then he doesn't believe in tears. Alrosa's quotes have fluctuated at the same levels since the introduction of restrictions. In general, already in December there was a strong feeling that it was necessary to come up with something because 6 months passed and it was becoming indecent. They came up with an idea. And then the 11th package was in June, and before that the 10th was in February. Now the EU faces 2 years from the beginning of the open phase of the conflict. They couldn't miss such an information feed, and therefore back in December they announced that they would definitely roll out a new portion by 24.02. However, coming up with something new becomes extremely problematic. The only serious measures left are a complete embargo of pipeline gas, LNG, and Rosatom. Most likely, they will not do any of this under any circumstances because this will mean a shot not at the legs, but directly at the head, especially when it comes to the atom. Eastern Europe, and not only, is still critically dependent on nuclear fuel supplies from Russia. And in principle, it is quite difficult to impose sanctions on an actual monopolist. Therefore, they began to dig into other industries. Aluminum came into view. Let me remind you that in the 12th package it was partly affected by banning the import of products made from this metal, including wire, foil, and pipes. However, they did not decide to abandon primary aluminum, 90% of the EU's supply structure and 9% of EU imports. And this despite the fact that local production is not operating at full capacity. The reason for this is quite simple: aluminum devours a lot of electricity. Although the sanctions also have supporters, the European Association of Aluminum Producers, which is logical, and our beloved Baltic states and Poland. And if the latter have nothing to lose, then the association is indignant that Russian products are outperforming local producers who are forced to pay many times more for electricity. The EU, of course, would do well to support them, but how? Even after reducing gas consumption by 20%, prices did not return to pre-crisis levels.